Hey guys, so as you might already know, most likely, when it does come to poultry farming, the biggest expense that you will have by far is the poultry feed. So much. I mean, for me on my poultry farm, it's around 82%. It will vary anything between usually 75 and 85%. Sometimes even up to 90%, depending on the cost of feed. If you're buying like properly already mixed food and and you're just buying it from somewhere. So the cost of feed is so high that it affects the success of your farm so much. It will affect whether you're profitable or not. And rightly so, of course, because food is the biggest impactor when it does come to rearing chickens. The quality of the food will determine the outcome of the chicken farm. If you give your birds poor quality feed, it's 100% going to reflect in the chickens. If it is broilers, it's going to be reflecting in terms of the target weight, the final target weight. Are they going to attain the perfect target weight for them? If it is layer, going to be the same exact thing. Are you going to be getting the exact eggs that you wanted out of the farm? If not, you're not going to get that. I mean, you might get small eggs, you might get, broken eggs or weak eggs, you might get few eggs. All those are different factors. And that plays into your profitability, because if you're not getting the things that you do require or desire in terms of quality, then the farm is not going to be profitable. So it is very, very important that you get, the correct type of feed. But it's also very important that you save on the feed, because like I've already told you guys, the cost of feed is such a huge component of the expenses when it does come to, to chicken farming. So it is very, very important, very, very, very important. So personally, in the past, I was thinking about it and I was thinking to myself, is it even possible at all for you to actually do a profitable poultry farm, just like you see me right here? This is a breeder farm. These are, layer breeders that we do have right here. Is it possible for you to do a chicken farm on a commercial level and not buy chicken feed? Is it even possible? Earlier on, I tried out quite a number of things, and in today's video, I want to talk about, the possibility of doing this, and what I personally believe are, the more practical things that you can do around. So stick around if this is you. Now, before we go forward, I want to tell you about animal care broadly. Feeding alone for the chickens is not enough if you don't understand animal care completely and comprehensively. And because of that, I've made a free video. I mean, it's a free class. It's a very beautiful class. Nothing like, you see right here just on YouTube. Very beautiful, great detail about, how to raise chickens and have healthy chickens, 4 fundamental things that you actually need to raise chickens and have them healthy, so that your farm turns out to be very profitable. It's a free class. I leave a description to that class at the end of the video. You can check it out and you'll find great value out of it. So earlier on, when I had just started farming chickens, I believe that was like my very first batch of chickens. At that point, I was raising 800 chickens. I noticed early on that, the feed cost is really crazy. I think at that point, it was like 85% of all the expenses that I was having on the farm. And I told myself, how do I bring down the cost of raising chickens? How do I bring this down? So I decided to start reading. Of course, when you start reading the internet, you're going to come across all these ideas. I mean, lots and lots and lots of crazy ideas. Some of them awesome, some of them really terrible. I was like, hey, why not? Why not try it out? At that time, I had come across quite an expansive, I would say, range of types of things that you could utilize. So some of them were, on the plant side, some of them were on the animal side. Now, when it does come to animal farming, the biggest expense we usually have, or the most complicated expense in terms of price per kilo, is actually usually the protein side. Now, in terms of absolute volumes, it's usually the carbohydrates, the energy source. In a lot of cases, it is the maize or it is the wheat. But in terms of cost per kilo, it's usually the protein. It's usually the most expensive. Commonly, commercially, we use, soya bean and fish meal and sunflower cake. Those are the things that we use. Now, they're honestly quite expensive. So if you could bring down the cost of these, then you'd have saved quite an amount of money. And at that point, I thought about the different alternatives. So on the plant side, the more likely options were 2. Number 1, using azolla. I think some people call azolla duckweed. So it is a plant that grows on water. So you build a pond, place a pond there, and then you place it over there. It replicates really quickly. It has a high moisture content, 100% certain, but also it it has quite a high protein content. So you can feed it to your birds and it would give you really great results. The second one was fodder. Now, the azolla, I didn't try out. I certainly didn't try out because, I mean, getting water around my area, I mean, it would have been complicated, yeah, for me, you know, to start digging a pit. I've seen people who are not doing it in a pit where they just dig a small area, then they put like a plastic bag and they pour water there and then they have it replicate. But then I would certainly have needed a much bigger place for me to be able to, you know, do that for my, you know, 800 chickens at that time. Yeah, so just a small area of like 3 by 3 meters would never have been sufficient. So I didn't try that one out. Now the next alternative that I did try out was actually fodder. I remember at that time I even went and bought barley. Yeah, I went and bought barley. I failed to get like normal barley, so I even got treated seeds of barley, soaked them in water to try and get, you know, the treatment off. But then in the end, it was still a very small, tiny percentage of what I needed to do. If I wanted to get a big enough fodder for me to feed my chickens, I would have had to build such an expansive thing on the farm, yeah, a really expansive thing on the farm. But the second thing is that the moisture content is quite high in barley, yeah. Of course, that's not a problem for chickens, but then that means that the birds really get satisfied really quickly with just water and you're not certain whether they have gotten the rest of the nutrients, yeah. So it also made it really complicated for me. I mean, doing it on such a huge scale, how would I serve the feed? Would I, you know, just give them the grains at first, then later on bring the wet fodder and give them? I mean, it was quite complicated, yeah. Now it's quite easy for you to calculate and understand the protein content that you're getting from the fodder, but in terms of like the mixture of the feed and how to feed it to the birds and the rations, it would have made it really, really complicated. So I tried it, and then the other thing is that growing the fodder, I honestly noticed it's not as easy as I thought it was, yeah. You know, people will tell you just place it inside the trays, you know, put some water and it grows. Sometimes it germinates, sometimes it doesn't. There's a particular skill, there's a particular rate of watering it. You need particular trays, which if you're going to be doing it on a huge scale are not so easy to get. So I mean, it just became really difficult for me. So I just told myself, no, that's not something I'm going to do. Now, the other alternatives in the plant world, but those are even more complicated, like using moringa. You know, they say moringa has a lot of protein and a lot of vitamins and all these things that you can feed to the chickens, but where can you get enough moringa, for example, to feed 1,000 chickens each and every day? How? Where? Yeah, if it's going to be your like main source of those nutrients, where? Very, very difficult. So it's not an option that I honestly went for. Now we also have the animal side of the protein, and the animal side has mainly two things. The two things that I was considering at that point were worms and maggots or black soldier fly larvae. Now I didn't do the worms because it would have been so hard for me to get them. I think they also grow much slower than the black soldier fly larvae. So it would have been really, really difficult. Then, you know, the medium in which you place them, soil or things like that. I mean, it was quite difficult for me to get them. Black soldier fly larvae felt like a more practical option because there are a lot of people, or I wouldn't say a lot of people, but there are some people who do it over here in Uganda. And, you know, they try to grow it and, you know, they can even do it in huge amounts. Yeah. So I went over to a place. I remember I did some training, learned quite an amount about, you know, doing black soldier fly larvae. And I remember at that point, they gave me eggs. And I went and started my own. Eggs and some larvae. I went and started my own. Started out really well. I mean, you know, you go and get, you know, waste. At that point, I was using maize bran and, you know, some animal waste from there. I don't remember which animal waste I was using, but I was using some form of animal waste and maize bran. Mixing it, then you have them replicate, you know, you have them grow up. I think the growing up was honestly good. They go to the larva stage. And of course, at the larva stage, I couldn't feed them to the chickens because I wanted to replicate them. So I let them become pupa, that's pupate. And then, you know, I made the larva cages outside where they start flying and they have to multiply. And then I noticed that it's also way more work than I could ever imagine. And at that point, I don't remember how many kilograms of, you know, protein I was using. At that point, I think I was using soya bean. Or, yeah, I think soya bean and fish meal and things like that. And I think I needed about 30 kilos of that every day. And I mean, once these black soldier flies had replicated and grown, like, you know, and multiplied, I could probably make like maybe half a kilo a day. I don't think I would even do a whole kilo of them every day. Maybe 1 kilo a day. If you dry them, it probably comes down to half a kilo because you're not going to give them to the chickens when they are wet and just moving like that. So I told myself, if I'm only doing half a kilo at this point, when am I going to get to a point where I'm doing, you know, 30 kilos, yeah? And then if you're doing a huge farm like mine right here, or a commercial layer farm where you have, you know, 10,000 birds, and then you're going to need maybe 300 kilos of that each and every day. How the hell do you get to that point? Yeah. So I also just noticed that it was such a difficult alternative. I tried it out, guys, tried to replicate them. I noticed that it requires so much work, it requires so much effort. Literally, it's a project of itself. I need someone to come in, take up the place, and be doing that with another team to do the actual replication of the maggots. And then the poultry itself will be another project, and this will be another project. So it turned out to be very complicated. Now I know what you're thinking to yourself. Well, Dr. Daniel, does that mean that this is not a viable option in animal feeding? Well, I'll tell you the honest truth. After everything that I did at that point, I noticed that 100% it was not a viable option for me. No. It was certainly not a viable option. I mean, it would have had to be so much hard work. It would have had to mean, me hiring other people and putting them in another project, which has chances of failing and succeeding, instead of me, just going outside there and, getting commercial feed. Yeah, and bringing it to the farm and feeding it to the chickens. So it made it so difficult, really, really difficult. And at that point, I just gave up on it. Yeah. So does that mean that these are not something that's viable for you? Does that mean that it is something that you can't implement? No, that's not it. Yeah. So it is still possible for you to do a poultry farm without buying feed. Honestly, it's still possible. Now, for now, we'll focus on the protein, because in the next video, I'm going to be talking about, on the wider scale and, the exact things that I believe you should be doing for you to actually get to the point where you're having a farm that's self-sufficient and, and growing really well. I wouldn't say self-sufficient, but you have a profitable poultry farm where you can have great results. Yeah. And, you're not probably spending too much on the animal feed. But the way that you can actually implement this on your farm is by, number one, if you have very few birds. Yeah. So if you have like 10, 15 birds, this is certainly something that you can do. Yeah. You're not going to be doing this if you have even 200 birds. I feel like even 200 birds is so much for you to do duckweed, for you to do, you can do these things, but on a small supplemental basis. Yeah. You can do these things. I've even seen people on YouTube, yeah, people who do this kind of stuff. They supplement with duckweed, they supplement with the black soldier fly larvae, but it's only still a supplement. You notice that they still give the birds, some other type of feed, maybe some commercial feed, or they buy maize and give them, some other type of thing. And these things are just a small percentage of what they supplement, maybe to be able to get, yellow yolks or things like that. Yeah, they just supplement. But you can't say that, black soldier fly, you're doing a commercial farm, you have 1,000 birds, and black soldier fly is going to be your core protein source. Yeah. Now, it's easy for you to think earlier on, but that it's something doable. But practically speaking, and from experience, it's going to be very, very difficult. It's going to be so difficult for you to implement, because I've tried it personally. I'm not speaking out of nowhere. I have videos that are made on this YouTube channel where I've been making black soldier fly larvae, where I've been, raising and growing, azolla. I do have them on this YouTube channel, and from my experience, it was very difficult. I've also visited people who do, for example, black soldier fly larvae on a bigger commercial scale, but they have all this kind of, houses. Sometimes they even have like, equipment where they, it's a really complicated thing, really, really complicated thing, and it's not something easy to implement. Yeah, so you can go ahead and do it, but it won't be as easy as you imagine it's going to be. It would require too much work, and it's not something that I would recommend for you to do going forward. So now, what do I recommend? Well, you're going to get into that in the next video. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, smash the notification bell. Catch you very soon with another video. Lots of love. Bye-bye.